coarse or subtle, valued or scorned, useful or useless, the bodhisattva abandons all of these. His mind is without regret and even towards all beings. He does not make considerations such as the following. It is necessary to make large gifts, not small gifts. One should give to monastics and not to lay people. One should give to humans and not to animals. He gives to all beings with perfect equanimity. He gives without seeking any reward and realizes the true nature of generosity. This is what is understood by perfection of generosity. Furthermore, he keeps no count of time, day or night, winter or summer, favorable or unfavorable moment. He gives equally at all time, and his heart feels no regret. He even goes so far as to giving up his head, his marrow and his skull. This is the perfection of generosity. Furthermore, some say, during the interval of time between the first production of the mind of body up to the 34 minds under the body tree, the generosity practiced by the bodhisattva is perfect generosity. Furthermore, in the seventh bhumi, the bodhisattva obtains the knowledge of the true nature of dharmas. From then on, he adorns the Buddhafields, converts beings, worships the Buddhas and acquires great miraculous powers. He divides his own body into innumerable bodies and rains down the 7 jewels, flowers, perfumes, banners and garlands from each of these bodies. He transforms himself into a great lamp, like Mount Sumeru, and pays homage to the Buddhas and assemblies of bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. Then in marvelous accents, he celebrates the qualities of the Buddhas in verse. He pays homage to them, worships, respects and welcomes them. He causes a rain of all kinds of food and clothing to fall on innumerable lands of the hungry ghosts of the 10 directions, enough to fill them fully. Having been filled to satisfaction, all the pretas produce the mind of supreme and perfect enlightenment. Then he goes to the animal realm. He commands the animals to improve themselves and to cast aside all feelings of mutual hostility. He chases away their fears and each is gratified according to their needs. Having obtained satisfaction, all the animals produce the mind of anuttarasamyaksambodhi. Among the damned plunged in the immense torments of the hells, he causes the extinction of the hell fires and the cooling of the boiling water. When their punishment has ceased and their hearts are healed, the damned feel neither hunger nor thirst. They obtain rebirth among the god or humans, and that is why they produce the mind of anuttarasamyaksambodhi. To the poor people of the 10 directions, the bodhisattva gives good fortune. As for the rich, he rejoices them by satisfying them with various flavors and colors. This is why they all produce the mind of anuttarasamyaksambodhi. The bodhisattva goes to the gods of the desire realm and makes them renounce their heavenly sense pleasures. He rejoices them by giving them this wondrous jewel that is the bliss of the Dharma. This is why they all produce the mind of anuttarasamyaksambodhi. Finally, he goes to the gods of the form realm and destroys their attachment to pleasure of meditative concentration. He rejoices them by means of the jhanas appropriate to bodhisattvas. This is why Thes gods produce the mind of anuttarasamyaksambodhi. This activity, which is continued until the 10th bhumi, is called the perfection of the virtue of generosity. Furthermore, the bodhisattva has 2 kinds of bodies. 1. A body born from bonds and actions, and 2. A body of the Dharma. The perfection of the virtue of generosity that he practices in these 2 bodies is called parapurnadana paramita. Question. What is meant by virtue of generosity belonging to the body born of bonds and actions? Answer. Without having attained the dharmakaya and without having broken his fetters, the bodhisattva is able to give all his precious goods unreservedly. His head, his eyes, his marrow, his skull, his kingdom, his wealth, his wife, his children, his internal or external possessions, without his mind feeling emotions. Visvantarajataka. Thus the prince Shuti-na, in the language of Tsin excellent generosity, gave his 2 children to a brahmin, and then he gave his wife, without his heart being upset by emotion. Sarvadajataka. Thus, King Sa universal generosity in the language of Tsin, having been conquered by an enemy kingdom, hid in a forest. A brahmin of a distant region came to beg alms of him. The king, whose kingdom was lost, his home destroyed and who was in hiding by himself, took pity on the fatigue of this man who had come so far without receiving anything, and said to this Brahmin, "I am King Sarvada. The new king has enlisted men to search for me and places great importance on my capture." At once he chained himself and gave himself up to the Brahmin who led him to the new king and was given a big reward. Kandra Prabhajataka. Again, Prince Yue Kuang went out for a ride one day. A leper saw him, stopped his chariot and said to him, "I am gravely sick, tired and in pain. Will the prince, who rides for pleasure, be the only one to enjoy himself? I would like him, with a mind of great compassion, to cure me." Having heard this, the prince questioned his physician who told him, "The blood and marrow are needed of a man who, from his birth up to his adolescence, has never been angry. We will smear the sick man with this marrow and give him to drink this blood. Then he will be cured." The prince said to himself, "Supposing such a man existed, he will hold on to his life and preserve it. What can be done? It is impossible to find someone who will sacrifice his body spontaneously." Then the prince commanded a kandala to cut into his flesh, break his bones, extract the marrow, smear the sick man with it and give him his blood to drink. By giving his life, his wife and his children in this way, the bodhisattva spares them no less than he would pieces of rubbish. Considering the things that he gives, he knows that they exist due to conditions and that, if one looked for a reality in them, one would find nothing. Indeed, everything is pure and like nirvana. Until he attains the acquiescence of the non-production of things, this is how his body born of bonds and actions practices the perfection of generosity. Question: how does the dharmakaya bodhisattva practice the perfection of generosity? Answer: having reached the end of the fleshly body, the bodhisattva attains the acquiescence of the teaching of the non-production of things. He abandons his fleshly body and acquires the body of the Dharma. In the 6 realms of the 10 directions, he converts beings by means of emanated bodies and avatars. He gives all kinds of pearls and jewels, clothing and food to all. He gives his head, his eyes, his marrow, his skull, his kingdom, his wealth, his wife, his children, his inner and outer possessions unreservedly. Siddhantajataka. The Buddha Sakyamuni was once a white elephant with 6 tusks. A hunter who was on the lookout for him shot him with a poisoned arrow. The other elephants ran up with the intention of killing the hunter by trampling him under their feet, but the white